Hey everyone, welcome to Everest Ice and Water. We are here today with Steve, one of our valued customers, to tell us about his experiences owning and operating Everest Ice Machine. Welcome, Steve. And what is the name of your company?
Company's name is called Beachside Ice LLC, and we are based here in Northwest Florida, up in the Panhandle.
Okay, so what kind of beaches do you kind of reside at?
So our closest beach is Panama City Beach, but we're looking to also service areas towards Destin, Rosemary Beach, and points a little bit further west as we continue to hopefully grow and expand the company. So we've got a pretty unique mix. We've got a number of beach hotels. We also have quite a large number of condominium complexes that do weekly rentals or short-term rentals that we see a tremendous influx of tourism numbers as we get into the summer season. Now our season here roughly runs about 8 months. We start in March with spring break and then run almost to the end of October into Halloween. That's still warm enough for most folks. And then a little bit of winter traffic. We do see some of the snowbird travel, as it's called, from the upper Midwest in Canada. To them, it's beautiful. You know, to us Floridians, 50 degrees is freezing. So,
Oh yeah, I know.
It's funny. We kind of get a good chuckle out of them because they laugh at us for wearing, big jackets and long pants.
Yeah, being a Florida native, coming into contact with a little bit of cold and we're already running away.
Oh, exactly. We're ready to chop up the couch for firewood, when it dips below 50.
Is Ice and Water your only business so far?
It is not. So it was actually started as just a side business, as an ancillary income. I also own and operate a small construction company. So we've been doing that for a number of years, and then we're looking to grow some different avenues, diversify a little bit, and decided to get into ice and water. Being on the beach and seeing the traffic that's generated to convenience stores or big box stores for nothing other than ice. We thought it was really a great opportunity to put the ice in front of folks, so maybe they're not having to get in their car and drive, and service them, where they're staying and close to the beach. We've, thankfully have done well with it. We've seen some great early successes. We look at it as almost of a captive audience. As folks stay in these complexes, they're there anyway. So if they're there and the machine is there and the beach is there, there's not a whole lot of reason to leave the complex once they've provisioned for the week and they've got their food and whatnot. The last thing they want to do is send dad to the grocery store in the morning to buy ice. Now he's losing his parking place, he's fighting traffic. Hey, if you can just take the elevator down to the pool deck, a couple of bucks gets you your bag of ice for the day. It's just it's simplistically easy. We've gotten a lot of feedback from our landowners as well as customers that the convenience of it makes the world of a difference to them.
It seems like you got a great location going on for you, which is probably like the big, main kind of problem that some people have is, location. Exactly the same thing with real estate.
Location finding and getting those agreements in place is probably one of the biggest hurdles with the ice and vending business. But for me personally, the more I made calls to folks and visited properties, it got more comfortable. And then certainly after our first machine was placed and we got sort of some traction on it and started getting some feedback, it made it tremendously easier, because now I could actually go to a new landowner and say, hey, if you have questions or you want to know more about the machine, not from me, obviously I'm very biased, here's some phone numbers. Give these folks a call and ask them how they feel about it, what they like about it. And so actually our second location ended up doing that, and came with thankfully a glowing recommendation. So we were able to move forward with an installation. And then from there, you get some word of mouth traffic. We do a little bit of advertising, and now we've actually got landowners starting to call us, which is ultimately what we want in the business. Them coming to us and saying, hey, we want your machines and we want, placement services, which is, again, a wonderful problem to run into very early on in the business.
Did you do any marketing, or you kind of just letting it do its thing, just build it up?
We started out doing some. We went to most of the major condo complexes around the area, just dropped off some information. Ones that seemed very interested, sometimes we'd go back either with a fruit basket or a tray of cookies for the office staff there, a little bit of an incentive to them to let us in the door again. And then from there, it was really just making the connections and the relationships and letting some of those folks go do the work for us. But thankfully, yeah, we've been very fortunate that the word of mouth has really started to catch on.
So what made you decide to get into the ice and water business?
Really, we saw a need for it here with so many people coming to the beach. We started to see, more and more folks coming, and sort of the big box stores being inundated. The convenience stores that were close were running out of ice constantly. And we were just kind of driving around doing some market research. We were looking for some of the other machines that might be out there that are roadside or what have you, and just kind of seeing what sort of traction they were getting. And then really decided, hey, where based on our location and our season, ice is going to be a commodity that's never going away.
Oh yeah.
You're going to have it, whether it's a beach day or you need it for your cooler for your trip back home. We've actually seen quite a number of fishermen use the machines just because it's easier and cheaper for them to kind of stock up on ice before going out for their day trips. We really want a product that we can put out there that we can maintain and manage. So we looked at some of the other brands, did probably 3 to 4 months worth of research into some of the other companies. And really when we found Everest, we found a fit very, very quickly between the technology packages that are in the machines, the wonderful service we received before the sale, and then even after the sale, which is ultimately one of the biggest caveats in the business is, hey, I just gave you a whole bunch of money for your machines, but I still want you to pay attention to me. I still need questions answered. I, have things that are come up, and we've received nothing but great service from Everest. Knock on wood, we have not had any major issues with any of the machines. It's all been little things or little updates that could be done remotely, or, a 5-minute phone call with tech support because I may not know which plug to put what place, and they just say, nope, this goes into there, reset it, and you're good. So we've been very satisfied with Everest. Like I said, I do like the technology aspect of it, of being able to manage the machines remotely. So whether I can get by the machines on those days, it's nice to be able to come home, fire up the computer, be able to log in and see what the machine's doing, what it did, some of the health reports. And having that access really kind of makes my mind a little more at peace without having to physically touch the machine, every single day.
And, you kind of already touched on it. Is that like the driving factor was, their service and especially the fact that you can monitor it?
I am not a refrigerant technician by any stretch of the imagination. So a machine that was well built but simply built was really what I was after. I do have some experience years ago working in some restaurants, and ice machines was one of the biggest faults almost, because when it broke, it would be down for days and days until a technician could come. So seeing that and then finding a company like Everest where the machine is very robust but ultimately is very simple was a great selling point, because some of the other brands have a lot of mechanical pieces, a lot of moving parts, and then finding a technician that can respond quickly can be very difficult, especially in the summer months. You're not wanting to displace income and revenue, but you're having to wait 2-3 days to get a technician out. So yeah, the technology and the simplicity was really what kind of got us to Everest, and then the service since the very first phone call, honestly, what led us to go ahead and say, we want to partner up, get some machines made, and kind of continue to expand. And Everest has been right beside us the whole time.
Great. Yeah. What other companies did you research? Just like all the other ones that are out there, basically?
Yeah, we kind of went through, Twice the Ice, Kooler Ice, Ice House America, some of those, and got to talking to them. We set up appointments and talked, and some of them, you left with a good feeling and want to pursue it about it. And some of them I just left with a feeling of, hey, really, they just want a check. And then that's the end of their agreement, more or less. Now, I do have some friends in the industry that have had great experiences with them, but they're very, very hands-on. It takes a lot of their time. Whereas the Everest machine, we We go a couple days a week to change out bags or get more change in the machine. Thankfully, empty the bill collector because hopefully it's full of money. But other than that, it's a small time dedication, but it's nothing that would require full-time maintenance from anybody, which I enjoy because it frees me up to do many other things.
Do you have any problems with the machine at all?
No, like I said, knock on wood, we've been fortunate, had no major issues. We've had just some little things from wear and tear, that is normal, it's going to happen. The machines do need to be cleaned, they do need to be maintained. So it's really just a maintenance schedule of getting down to them, cleaning them, kind of protecting the electronics as best we can. Same thing with any of the metal parts, the moving pieces, keeping them lubricated. But yeah, we've been fortunate not to have really any issues, which I'm very thankful for.
And how many days a week would you say you go down and check it out?
At least 3. I'd say we typically go down at least 3 days a week to really make sure there's enough bags in the machine, and then to make sure there's enough change so when folks do come that we can give them an adequate change back instead of having it be dimes and nickels back to them. Our bags of ice are $2 currently, so if you're paying with a $5 bill, obviously getting 3 coins back versus 12 coins back makes a little bit of difference as you're going down to the beach and what you want to stick in your pocket. And then one of those 3 days, usually we'll allocate a couple hours to just general cleaning, kind of going through the machine, making sure everything looks correct and is good. And that's really about it. It's like with anything, the first couple times it takes a while, and then as you get used to it, it becomes a habit. It's a very quick process to kind of keep the machine up to speed.
And you said you have 2 machines so far. How many do you think you're trying to maybe expand in the next year or 2?
Within the next year, we're probably looking at least 4 machines. Within the next 2 years, I would love to be adding another 8. So really, we would like to be, within the next 2 years, we would like to be north of 10 machines placed in service in the field. Would be the goal. We've also got a number of marinas and boat ramps and things that are close. So we've looked at going into some of those. The problem sometimes we run into is obviously with the utilities, how far away is the power, where's the water, and then is it even cost prohibitive to have those installed? We've looked at locations before that maybe would have been a good location, but just the installation costs really would have taken so long to recoup. It just doesn't make it worth it. So, and those things you've really got to think about as you get in. You could find an absolutely perfect location, but if some of the utilities and infrastructure doesn't exist, it may just not be worth it.
It's definitely an interesting point to make, is how you said the installation costs and all that. Seeing how far away the electricity is or the water is.
Yeah, and it's something you've really got to, you can almost forget about it, because you find a great location, you get excited about the machine, and then you got to remind yourself, well, hold on a minute, I got to power this thing, I got to get water to it, and I need some sort of drainage for the excess to come out. And based on municipalities or counties or building codes, obviously you've got to follow in some parameters. We've got one site we're currently looking at that the utilities are already in place. So, and it's kind of a balancing act. Hey, it may not be the biggest production machine, but the installation costs are virtually none.
I don't know, would you say your 2 machines are both home runs, or does one do better than the other?
One does better than the other currently. Now, they're both, I would say, very successful. One does better currently just because it is in a larger condominium complex. That particular complex has about 450 condominiums in it, so it's relatively good size. So just based on the sheer number of people that can fit there, that machine does very well. Our second machine still does well, just a smaller complex. We did have to do a little bit more on-site advertising there just to get people to know it's there and get used to using it. So we went to a local print shop, had some signs printed up, some little yard signs that we could put around the property, and some signs that we got them to put in the elevator. So that way it's just, as you're coming and going, you're seeing that it's there. Just and capture whatever we can, even in some of our shoulder months before we ramp up or slow down from the season.
What was the buying process like? Was it easy talking to a salesman and all that stuff?
It was. So our first phone call was with Marco. Was a tremendous amount of help and great information. Kind of walked us through the process, what it would be, what it would entail. And as we kind of progressed through that, I would remember things or questions would come to mind, after our phone calls. it was great. And I could actually just email over to him and say, hey, I forgot to ask this, or I was wondering about a couple of these things. And responses were fairly quick back. I think we probably had 3 or 4 phone conversations. I wanted to know a lot about the machine, and I try to be pretty hands-on. I want to understand how it worked. And he was great about getting a lot of information sent over to look through before we ever even agreed to purchase a machine. It was easy. Of course, it's a large investment. Nothing should be scoffed at. You really got to do your research and find if you're comfortable with it. And once we decided to kind of press the go button, it was easy. That's one of the hardest parts is, you do everything and you get your packet back and it's all done and you go, great. Now I got to wait for a little while for the thing to get here.
I'm excited.
I appreciate kind of a one-stop shop. I particularly like the machine and being self-contained. Everything's in one unit. The technology aspect, it really makes it easier to manage and maintain the machines. And then from Everest, after the sales, we've had nothing but great service. If I have questions or need to order maybe a particular part to have a backup, we've had no issues there. The Everest store is nice because it lays out the majority of items you're going to need to order. Whether it's filters or UV bulbs or more bags. And, all that's kind of right there, which, again, a one-stop shop I greatly appreciate with limited time, as most people nowadays. We're all busy. We're all trying to make the best of everything. So if I can log on to one website, get my questions answered, ordered more bags, and check on my machines, hey, I'm a pretty happy camper.
The final question would be would you recommend Everest to a friend or a family member?
Without hesitation. Now, I would tell anybody that's looking to get into any new business venture, take your time, do your research, spend a fair amount of time reading and going through things. Of course, YouTube is a tremendous amount of information out there. Do your due diligence and ask questions. That's the biggest thing. I tell people, I get emails and phone calls from folks that are prospective buyers. And I tell them constantly, ask questions, make a list, write it down. Everest is a busy company. So when you've got your time allotment, with your sales folks, make the most of that time. Ask all the questions you can to get to your comfort level. And that's what we did, at the end of it. Very comfortable. Folks wanting to get in this industry, Everest is a great place.
All right. Well, I think that's all the questions I got. Thank you so much. You have a good day.
I appreciate it. Have a great day, buddy.
You too.
See you.